So it's a replay of action. Namaskara again, and namaskara. Welcome to Frames 2024, Square It Up. And in this exhibition, member exhibition of prints, we are going to have a presentation, pole to pole. So today to just talk about the presentation by Dr. Ajit Huilgol. So on the occasion of World Photography Day celebration, we bring this presentation to you. So, and it is going to be a very unique one, both from the north and south poles of our world. Now, Dr. Ajit Huilgol has been one of the fortunate few to have visited both the Antarctic twice, not once but twice, and the Arctic too. These are some of the remotest, coldest, costliest and most challenging trips that one can undertake. So, all adjectives belong to those two places. So, he shall be taking us with him on a virtual tour of these places, showing us some stunning images of the landscapes and of the various birds and mammals that inhabit these remote areas of the world. He will not only show us the pictures, but he will talk about some of the similarities of these polar adventures and of the many dissimilarities as well. So we will also learn about how to get there, of the hardships of life on a ship, and the challenges of photographing from a zodiac. Looking at his pictures, we might think it's a breeze just to go there and then, get nice pictures. But then I think he will break that conception that we have. And the presentation will also include details of the cost involved, the number of days that you will need to spend there, and how to get to these far-flung places. So today we'll join him with the adventure. But before that, a few words about Dr. Ajit Huilgol. So Dr. Ajit K. Huilgol is a multifaceted individual and wears many hats. He is a kidney transplant surgeon based in Bengaluru and has been doing kidney transplants in the city since the very first successful transplant in Karnataka in 1983. And there's a lot more to talk about his medical achievements, which I'm not going to do now, and I'll stick only to his photography achievements because otherwise we will not have time to see his slideshow. So in 2008, he received his associateship of the Royal Photographic Society. In 2009, he received the runner-up award in the prestigious BBC Wildlife Photographer of the Year in the mammals behavior category. His images and articles have appeared in many magazines and books. He is a very sought-after speaker on topics ranging from travel to post-processing. So Dr. Huilgol joined YPS in November 2020, and it's just 2024 now. And with the help of senior members, he says he has been participating in various national and international salons. And in this short period of time, he has won over 400 awards and over 4,000 acceptances. A big round of applause for Dr. Ajit Huilgol. Wonderful achievement. So now let's travel with him to both the poles.
Good evening, and thank you very much for inviting me on this very, very important occasion of the International World Photography Day. I must thank a number of YPS members, but especially Prema, who has been behind me since May, saying you need to give a talk. And then I said, look, I've been to the Antarctic and twice to the Antarctic, but I'll be going to the Arctic next month. And when I come back, I can present those images as well. So she said, okay, what title would you like to give? And I said, Pole to Pole, which she liked immensely, because I'll be going, well, not really to the North Pole and South Pole, but anyway, close to those. So this title was decided in May itself. And the talk was decided even before I had gone to the Arctic, even for the first time. So now you will also find all these letters after my name. And except for the ARPS, like she said, which I got in 2008, all the others came thanks to my YPS friends. They are so numerous to mention here. Madhu, Prema, Satish, Girish, Anant Kamath, Vikas, Krishna Bhatt, and if I've forgotten some people, it's because I can't remember names that well. In fact, it is said that there are 3 stages of forgetfulness. The first stage is you forget people's names, right? Family and friends, people's names you tend to forget. The second stage of forgetfulness is mainly for men. You go to the toilet and come back and realize you have not pulled the zip up. And the third stage of forgetfulness is you go to the toilet and come back and realize you have not even pulled the zip down. So, no, okay, I'm fine now. Right. Okay. So now, like she said, I joined in November of 2020. And from 2021 and 22, I participated in a number of salons thanks to who has become now a very, very good friend of mine, Mr. C.S. Satyanarayan. Satyanarayan was just a casual call on Deepavali, wishing me a happy Deepavali, and he said, I see your images, you are sending just 4 wildlife images and paying a huge amount of money to some 3 or 4 salons per year, become a member of YPS. So because of that, I was goaded into becoming a member of the YPS, and then everything changed around. I'm a surgeon. I'm used to seeing blood. I'm used to seeing blood hit the ceiling, literally hit the ceiling. I don't get scared. But spreadsheet used to, it terrified me. Until Anant Kamath came home, he sat next to me, held my hand, put up the spreadsheet and taught me how to insert these various things into the various boxes. So, like I said, I'm very, very grateful to every one of you. Too numerous to mention. I can only just remember a few names here and there, and like I said, I've forgotten a lot more than I can remember. So all these things came, and towards the end I realized, at least I felt, I was on this treadmill that was going faster and faster and faster, and I decided if I don't get off now, I'm going to fall and hurt myself badly. So I finally managed to jump off, and since 2023, I think Jan or February, I stopped participating in salons, except the few that YPS conducts, and it's a great honor for me. So I can't refuse to or not participate in YPS salons. So that's the only thing I'm doing now. So once again, thank you all so very much for all this. Now I'm one of the very, very fortunate, extremely fortunate few to have traveled both to the Arctic and to the Antarctic, twice to the Antarctic. One in 2013 and the other time in 2023, just last year. And I came back with tons of images from the Antarctic and this time too from the Arctic. So this is a small way of saying thank you to all those people who organized that. Yashpal Rathod is here. He was one of those who organized. He actually organized the Arctic trip this time. So thank you again, wherever you're sitting. I can't see you in the dark. Yeah, there you are, right. Okay. Right, I think from there, let's proceed. This is going to be a photographer's journey to the ends of the earth. So it's from a photographer's perspective. It will be about, well, lighting, composition, subject. To me, actually, the most important things are the subject should be an interesting subject. And that subject should be doing something. It should be absolutely sharp. And the background is as important, if not more important, than the subject itself. So with these in mind, please look at the images and critique them at the end. And at any time when I'm talking, if you have any question, any doubt, just raise your hand. I'll stop. You will not be interrupting my flow of thought because I can pick up from where I left off and then continue. Right, so sit back, relax. I'll be talking about how to get to these places, and then tidbits of information about the places where we land, and then life on the ship, getting down into the Zodiac, doing landings or no landings, or shooting only from the Zodiac, or shooting from the ship alone, and then I'll wind up at the end, and with lots of questions and answers if you have any. So first to the Arctic, how to get there, and this is what we did. We flew Qatar Airways, and there you can see on the thing, 4-hour flight to Doha, then 3-hour halt there, Doha to Oslo, 7-hour flight, 7 hours halt in Oslo, and straight away Oslo to Longyearbyen. It's a 3-hour flight. Now, you need to remember that Longyearbyen is not part of Schengen. It doesn't belong to any country. So you need to take a Schengen visa to fly to Norway. And when you leave Norway, your passport is chopped. Only then you can enter Longyearbyen or Svalbard area, or Spitsbergen as it was called, or still called sometimes. And when you come back, your passport has to be chopped again. So remember, if you're going to apply, please apply for a multiple entry visa to Norway. You have to leave Norway and come back to Norway. Once again, Longyearbyen does not belong to any country, right? So that's the way we flew, Bangalore, Doha, Doha to Oslo, Oslo to Svalbard. Longyearbyen is the world's northernmost town, and I've been fortunate to go to the southernmost town in the world, that is Ushuaia, which we'll come to a little later. Now, some very, very interesting facts about Longyearbyen. Small population, 2,500, 2,600. You cannot give birth there and you cannot die there. What do I mean by that? It's a very, very small town, obviously 2,600 population. There isn't a good hospital there. So if a lady is going to give birth and there are some complications, there is no hospital to treat her. So if she is in an advanced stage of pregnancy, maybe 7 months or so, she has to go to Oslo or wherever and then deliver there. And why people cannot die there? Because if a person is buried there, polar bears will come there, dig up that body and eat it. It has happened in the past, and people who have buried 200, 300 years ago have come up because of that permafrost rising up, and polar bears have come to feed on these carcasses which are very, very well preserved 200, 300 years later. So that's the reason why you cannot afford to die in Longyearbyen. If you die, it's going to be a very costly affair to fly you out, fly the body out. Again, one of those small tidbits of information about Longyearbyen. And in summertime, you can do this. You can go on these bikes. In winter, obviously, it is skiing, sledding on snow. But in summer, you can do this. You can also do dog sledding. And that's the sort of landscape you have around you. All these mountains are covered in snow. So is the entire ground here in winter. But now it is totally different, and the landscape is, again, it's so beautiful, even with partly covered in snow and ice. As I said, beautiful mountains all around, obviously covered entirely in snow and ice in winter, but now laying bare. And here you see 2 barnacle geese there. There's one more here, and this massive landscape behind you. We also visited a place called the Vault, V-A-U-L-T, Vault, where hundreds and thousands of seeds of plants from around the world have been kept preserved right in there at sub-zero temperatures. This is in case there is, say, some catastrophic event, like a nuclear warfare or whatever. These seeds are well preserved deep inside, and they can be brought out and replanted to green the world, as it were. We are not allowed to go inside now. It was apparently open until COVID struck, but after that, we are not allowed to go inside. So we hired a big van, and all of us went in there. We were about, 12 photographers on that trip, that's it. And 8 from Bangalore, 3 from Delhi, and 1 from Hyderabad. We saw a walrus, a lone walrus sitting there. He didn't like being photographed, closed one eye, shut the other eye with a flipper, and just stayed in that position for, I think, about some 15 or 20 minutes or whatever we spent with him. Just didn't budge. We also saw eider. Now, this is something I hate. I hate putting up names on slides, but I've been told by a number of friends that if you don't do it, now, you know the names of these birds and animals, we don't, so unless you put it up, we can't remember them. So I put it up in small letters right up there on top. This is a common eider, female and male. We didn't see the king eider, which is a very, very attractive looking bird from the photographs that I've seen. That is the barnacle goose, beautiful patterns on the dorsum. Arctic tern, sitting on this lovely little mound of grass and pretty pink flowers. And where there are terns, just like our terns here, they will attack and peck people on the head. So you need to wear a hat, especially if you're someone like me. You're going to get badly hurt if a tern pecks at your head. There it is sitting on 2 eggs. And when you have turns, there are lots of lovely aerial displays as well, like this one. That was our ship, the MV Villa. Only 7 cabins, 6 cabins for the 12 photographers, and 1 cabin for the 2 guides who were there. And I think the crew was about 5 or 6 people, the crew, that's it, 5 or 6, that's right, Yashpal. And they managed the entire ship. So it's a very, very small ship. It doesn't have an icebreaker. It can move small floes of ice, that is pack ice, but it can't really cut through ice unless it is very, very thin. So it is, like I said, but the waters are fairly calm compared to the Antarctic. So the entire voyage was very, very smooth, except on the very last day, a little choppy, but otherwise really smooth. And compared to the Antarctic, it's like a walk in the park. And that is Longyearbyen right there. And this is the route that we took. We got into the ship, we went to bed at 9:30. And I say we went to bed at 9:30. The sun does not set at all. At midnight, the sun is like about, say in Bangalore, about 8:30 in the morning, that sort of sunlight. And that's at midnight. And at noon, the sun is at about, it feels like it's 10 o'clock in Bangalore. So you have 24 hours of shooting light. If you're, you can get up at any time in the day or night, and day or night depends on the clock, on your watch. Only depending on that, you can go to bed or not go to bed, and those times will determine when you can have breakfast, when you can have lunch, and so on. So that's the reason for the clock. Otherwise, you just can't make out whether it's day or night. So we went to sleep at 9:30, and when you sleep in your underwear, thermal underwear, top and bottom. Because at any time you can be woken up and you have to rush, put on all your various layers of clothing and get into the Zodiac for a shoot. So we were sleeping there at 9:30. Just 1 3/4 hours later, we were woken up saying, polar bears sighted, come quickly, 15 minutes in the Zodiac. So in 15 minutes, you have to put on pant, a rain pant, a shirt, another shirt, then your rain jacket, and then your boots, your socks of course, and boots, and then your life jacket, gloves, and if you have, take hand warmers with you. The hand warmers are small sachets. You can buy them on Amazon. You open the packet, there's a small little sachet with lots of granules inside. You just shake it, and it becomes nice and pretty warm. And you can slip that into your pocket or even into your shoes and walk around, and you can be fairly comfortable. Now, if you've been following English cricket, for example, when test matches start in April and May, it can be very cold in England. You'll find all the slip fielders standing with their hands in their pockets when the bowler's running into ball. That's because they've got hand warmers inside. And as the bowler is about to deliver, they take their hands out and are ready to catch. So these hand warmers are available, and you can take plenty of sachets. You'll need them. They last about, they say it lasts 6 hours, but I don't think it lasts more than 4.5 hours. So that's more than enough for a Zodiac cruise, and you come back again. Right, so we saw the first bear around here itself, just after we set sail. And these are the various dates and what we saw on various days. That's the Zodiac. It's a rubber dinghy with an outboard motor. And there's one sort of a pilot or a driver who drives that around. And this is all pack ice or frozen sea ice. And you have to, they negotiate, they maneuver that Zodiac in between so that you can go to the place where there is wildlife. And there's the mother with 2 cubs. And again, see, if you go in winter, the entire thing will be white. So you'll get white polar bears against white backdrop. It's good, but when you have the same thing every day, I would think it will become monotonous. So if you can get a backdrop like this, massive backdrop like that with interesting animals, I think it makes for a far better image than white on white. But I've not been there in winter, but this is what I would feel at present. There's a mother peeping out and looking at us. Now, where there are polar bears, you can't make a landing. No way, because polar bears are the only bears that will actually actively hunt, kill, and eat you. You can get away with grizzly bears, you can get away with black bears, you can get away with our sloth bears, for example. But this bear will actually actively hunt, kill, and eat you. So you cannot make any landing. We had, I think, 3 landings planned, but we were able to do only 1 landing because at that particular spot there were no polar bears.
Ajit, that
Yep. Diagonals on the opposite side, far away. So this is sort of a thing that appeals to me at least. This was at midnight, I mean near midnight. So this is just to tell you this is what the light is like at midnight.
What would be the distance?
You can't go to within 30 meters of these things, 30 to 50 meters, but better you stay away. Stay a little further away. We have,
From the zodiac.
these are all from the zodiac. You cannot make a landing there at all. No landings allowed. Not allowed. I mean, you don't want to. Even if they allow you, you don't want to. Bears will be very happy though. And as all cubs do, I was very, very playful. So I've got hundreds of images. This is another big polar bear, huge polar bear that we saw. When I say we saw, the guides and these guys who keep a lookout, I mean, this bear was about some 3 or 4 kilometers away. How they managed to spot something which is almost white on white, and I just don't know. And this bear was sleeping with his back towards us, facing the other way. But they said, oh, there's a polar bear there, let's get on. So we got into the zodiac and started going. And at that time, there was this, it's called calving, C-A-L-V-I-N-G, where a glacier breaks off and a huge, massive amount of ice falls into the water, and it sounds like a thunderclap, loud thunderclap. Doom, it goes, and then the whole thing falls into the water. And that woke up the bear, and he started walking towards us. So our guides were taking us, maneuvering this zodiac in between the ice to go near the polar bear. But at the same time, of course, with the zodiac, what they can do is they go against this ice that is floating, and they raise the accelerator, vroom, 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 and then that ice flow moves away a little bit. Then you can go in between. But at the same time, they make very, very sure that the pack ice doesn't close in behind you. Because then you're trapped with a polar bear. That's not something that is desirable. So they make very, very sure that they have an exit route at all times. We want them, of course, to go closer and closer, but they are keeping an eye out behind us. So this guy walked towards us, and look at this backdrop. This is what I'm saying. If you go in winter, I'm sure you'll get only similar backdrops. Not that it's not nice, but I was thinking it can become monotonous rather than having various different kinds of backdrops. This in summer, yes. You get a nice green, brown background as well as this. After about 2.5 hours with polar bears and really freezing cold, one of the guides spotted the walruses, said, can we go to the walrus? We said, yes, of course, in spite of the cold and shivering. So we drove there, and then we got these walruses on ice floes.
What temperature? When you say
3 degrees, but it will feel like, say, -3 because of the wind factor, the chill factor, and all that stuff. So it can feel much below 0. Then we came across this, what's called a dirty bear. This is a polar bear which has got deep into a carcass, an animal that had died maybe the previous year, and after the ice had melted in the summer, that fresh meat came up, was exposed when it thawed, and the polar bear had gone deep into that carcass and had fed. So when he came out, he was all brown and dirty like this, covered in flesh and old blood and so on. So it's called a dirty bear. Looks almost like a grizzly bear, but the grizzly bear has got this typical hump over the shoulder, and the snout is a little smaller. This has got almost a snout like a golden retriever. Again, lovely backdrops. The rocks have so much character in them. And again, I don't even know what time it was. It was all a blur, actually. And then finally, he walked all the way and then went and slept on the snow, as if that's the most comfortable bed on earth. Sleeping on snow. This young polar bear was trying to bite off more than it could chew. Came across these walruses, thinking, might get some small little baby walrus, but there was such a big fortress of walruses with these huge tusks. No way that polar bear could go anywhere. Looked a little sheepishly at us, saying, I wish you hadn't seen this, and then started walking away. So this is, a typical polar bear, lovely, white, fluffy, huggy, cute. And then we came across another polar bear. They were actually one after the other. This is what, again, these lookers spotted this bear. It was in water. The tide was, high tide, and there was this floating carcass, which they identified later as a walrus. You can see those tusks there. One tusk here, another tusk there. So this is a walrus carcass that was floating. The bear was in water. So by the time we got into the Zodiac and went there, the water level had receded, and the walrus was on land. And this guy had put his face right inside and was coming out with his face all smeared in blood. Now this image, it looks over-sharpened, terrible. This is not the way you should be processing. That's the usual reaction amongst when photographers have a look at this. But I must tell you, if no sharpening has been applied at all, zero. But when you have an animal that is wet and the fur is wet, it already looks sharpened. So you should actually try not to sharpen at all. If at all, if you can pull it back, maybe you can. I don't know how you can pull it back though. But it looks over-sharpened, it's not. Believe me. So this guy kept sniffing around. And our guide said, this is a very big polar bear. I don't think there's any other polar bear there. He can probably smell another polar bear, but from the smell and from whatever, they can make out whether there is another bear, maybe how far away it is, how big it is, whether it's bigger than this or not, whatever it is, they can gather all this information. So after feeding for a little while, he walked away. And then came another polar bear. You can see the difference here. This guy is almost brown. This is almost white. Again, red face. He came in there. He must have been feeding earlier. He came back there, much bigger bear. He sat down to eat. This is the same bear feeding on that walrus carcass and this massive landscape behind. This is the only seal. There are, I think, 4 seals in the Arctic area. The bearded seal, the ringed seal, the harp seal, and another seal I can't get the name, I can't remember the name of. But this is the only seal we could actually photograph. Unfortunately, we saw some very, very far away, and we had to assume that that is a ringed seal or whatever. But this is the only seal we could actually photograph. Favorite food of a polar bear, obviously, because there's a lot of fat on him. And polar bears typically, when they are well fed, they will eat only the fat. They will not eat the meat at all, if they are well fed, I'm saying. They leave the meat behind for all the other, Arctic foxes and gulls and so on to come and then feed. And maybe the younger polar bears who are not fattened up enough. But they will not touch the meat if they are really well fed. Also, so Arctic foxes. Now, the Arctic fox in winter is totally white, except for the eyes and the snout, which is black. But otherwise, it's totally white, and in summer, it sheds that coat and gets this summer coat. We got this, and I'm just showing 1 or 2 images, hundreds of images, obviously, but just showing 1 or 2. And we were very, very fortunate to see something like this, a black-colored Arctic fox. They call it blue fox, because from a distance, maybe I think look blue. It's like our Nilgiris, all our mountains look blue. Blue mountains, blue this, Nilgiris, they all look blue from a distance. They're not blue really. So, but this is called a blue fox, and apparently only 1.5% of all Arctic foxes have this color. And we were really fortunate to get this guy. Also got some birds, the red phalarope, Arctic tern, of course, coming out of a dive into the water. Guillemot, small little bird, very, very small. Looks like a mini penguin actually, but it can fly. Guillemot colony, massive rock face with lots of hundreds and thousands of birds nesting on these and flying in, flying out. Fabulous area, really fabulous area. You can spend more than 1 hour just photographing these. Guillemot in water.
Sir, what's that bird name?
Guillemot. Then we had Jesus Christ, puffin walking, running on water. I've got some fabulous images of puffins, but in England, Farne Islands, where they come back with 8 to 10 fishes in their beaks at a time. Here they were not breeding, so didn't have that image, but lots of puffins as well. These are black-footed kittiwake. And at one place, there were about, Yashpal, about maybe 10,000, 20,000 birds in one spot. Kittiwakes, easily in one spot. and this glacier at the back. Now, this is not our ship, but I like that blue and a bit of red. I know Satish likes red, a touch of red. Where's Satish? Satish, say somewhere, touch of red. He likes that. So I thought this would make a nice image, just for fun. And this glaucous gull, apparently the biggest gull in the northern seas, it had caught a kittiwake, black-footed kittiwake. It had killed it, and it dragged that through the water. It swam and came onto shore and started feeding on that. And here you can see even the eye of the dead bird. This is the ivory gull, very, very rare. We saw only one, if I remember right, only one. The northern fulmar. You'll see a southern fulmar when I show the Antarctic. This is called a hanging glacier. That part is hanging there. And again, lovely landscapes, various colors of brown and green and orange, obviously containing lots of iron and copper and various other minerals. These are the kittiwakes. This particular spot, I think there were more than 20,000 or 30,000 of these birds, all flying around. And icebergs, beautifully sculpted by water and wind, and each one having a unique shape. A glacier. I was very fortunate that I had turned my camera into video. I rarely, very, very rarely shoot video. So this is one of those times where I was holding this, and then you can see that massive piece of ice and water coming from underneath the glacier, and then this is taken from a zodiac, so there's going to be a bit of shake. Look at that. And one more here. So then it's dangerous to stand in the zodiac because of this, the waves caused by the falling ice. That is Jai Kumar spoiling my film. Okay. And when we crossed 80 degrees north, actually we crossed 81.6 or something, there was this champagne, there was a celebration. And we all sat down there, and there's everyone. These are the two guides, this one and that, part of the crew, and all of us photographers there. So Antarctica. So how to get there? I've been there twice, like I said, but the last time was again Qatar Airways, Doha, and then from there, Doha to Miami, 14 hours, 6 hours halt there, Miami to Santiago, 12 hours halt in Santiago, where overnight I stayed in a small room, and Santiago to Punta Arenas, and arrived there on October 20th, that is. That is the flight. That is Santiago. From there to Punta Arenas. Punta Arenas is in Chile. Ushuaia is down there. That is the southernmost city on earth, but that is in Argentina. Last time I went to Ushuaia and then set sail from Ushuaia. But this time, Punta Arenas, we flew this is the Falklands, and then from there set sail to South Georgia to Antarctic Peninsula, and then back again. This time, we landed in Ushuaia once again, and then flew back, again via Miami. That's the worst part of the travel is traveling to the United States. I don't know how many people there are from the United States here or who live there. I think Badrinath does. It is pathetic. Those guys are so primitive. There is no concept of transit or a transit visa. You have to enter the United States. You stand in that long queue. You go through immigration. They say, "Welcome to United States, sir." And I'm not interested in coming to United States, boss. Okay. So you go out, collect your luggage, go back in again, stand in another queue, and again check out, meaning you're leaving the United States. "Oh, hope you had a good time, sir. Come again, chop." Hey, man, I just walked in through that door and in through this door. But, really, it's very painful. Very, very painful. Okay, so the first time we did this, from Ushuaia to Falklands, that is West and East Falklands, and from there to this small little sausage-shaped island called South Georgia. I think probably the richest island in terms of wildlife anywhere on Earth, absolutely. And then from there to Antarctic Peninsula, and then back through the roughest sea in the world. This is called the Drake's Passage, and extremely choppy. I'll show you that. That is Ushuaia, population of about 50,000, and in summer apparently you can even play golf. So Pradeep Rao, if you're listening, you can play golf in Ushuaia. Okay, so you can do that. But from Ushuaia you can go to a nearby national park, and there's lots of bird life, and it's worth spending at least 3 or 4 days. I didn't have that amount of time, but worth spending 3 or 4 days going to this national park and photographing lots of birds. So that is the West Falklands, the East Falklands, and again hundreds of islands all making up these. A plane flies into Falklands once a week. So if you fly to the Falklands, you can spend one whole week in the Falklands and fly back again. But it's really worth spending one entire week. Again, like I said, I didn't do it, but it really is worth spending one whole week in the Falklands and then flying back. The next flight again is 1 week later. This is South Georgia, like I said, sausage-shaped, and in the center there's this Allardyce range of mountains separating a warm east coast from a cold south coast. When I say warm east coast, I'm talking about 2 degrees, 0 degrees, -3, -7, and 70 km/h wind speed, so that makes it even colder than that. But, and there's lots of wildlife along this shore. This is very, very cold because there is nothing separating the west side from Antarctica. So very extremely cold and not too much wildlife there, fortunately for us, so we can't go there. We did all this travel here. And you'll see these numbers, 7 here, 8 is there, and then 9 is here. What that means is the ship goes to 7, for example, and it anchors there. We get into the zodiac, go ashore. In Antarctica, you can make landings every time. It is totally planned. So you can get into the zodiac, go ashore, spend 3 to 4 hours with all the animals and birds, and come back again. No polar bears there. Fortunately, no polar bears there. God in His infinite wisdom put polar bears in the North Pole and no polar bears in the South Pole, because the birds in South Pole can't fly. So if you leave a polar bear there, they are all decimated in next to no time. So this is, yeah. So we anchor there, we go ashore, come back, and then we are supposed to go to the next point, obviously. But then as soon as you go around a bend, the water is so choppy, or it is raining or snowing, that you can't go ashore. So the captain immediately decides, we'll go from here. As he's sailing, he finds, okay, this spot where the waters are calm, we'll stop there, so we go ashore. And then again, same thing happens. We go here. Then we go back 10, 11. So we go up and down, depending on what the water conditions are like and what the weather is like. And that's the Antarctic Peninsula. And that is the peninsula here, that's sort of Antarctica, and that is Ushuaia. You can see Ushuaia there. And that is the Drake Passage. So in that national park near or from Ushuaia, you can see various birds, nostril thrush, buff-necked ibis, upland goose, very, very pretty, very handsome bird. This is a male, drizzling a bit at that time. And you can see lovely pretty flowers around because that's summertime. And this is the female, the ashy-headed goose, the ruddy-headed goose, a kelp goose, this is the male. And here you find 2 penguin species which you will not find anywhere else on your trip. So it is really worthwhile going to the Falklands to photograph these. This is the only penguin that makes a burrow and then lives underground and gives birth to, lays eggs and then rears its chicks underground. This is the Magellanic penguin. And then the other penguin is the rockhopper penguin, which you will not find anywhere else on your Antarctic tour. American oyster catcher, black-browed albatross, very, very, very beautiful bird. It looks like some kajal has been applied. This is the rockhopper penguin, very angry-looking guy. The striated caracara, it's a bird of prey, and it's waiting near these penguin nests, waiting for the parents to get up and go so it can steal a chick or an egg or so on.
There's banded, is it?
Pardon me? Yeah, banded. And it's unlike in the Arctic where you know you're going there, you can see the animal from far away, you go there and photograph. Here, it's not that you get down, you make a landing, and there are animals everywhere. Not everywhere is it like that. You will have to walk and walk and walk with your camera gear and so on. Tough tussock grass, you will not see a single tree afterwards. Once you leave Ushuaia, no trees at all, nothing. And you have to walk in snow sometimes like this. And trek and trek and trek, because penguins don't lay eggs on snow. They lay eggs only on rocky areas. So you have to walk all the way there or here if you want to photograph penguins with their nesting sites. And at the end of that trip, you're waiting for the Zodiac to come back, pick you up, and take you back to the ship, which is where you spend the night. And here, there were nights. I mean, sun would set, and we would have darkness for about 5 hours or so, and then it became fairly bright again. And we've been told not to go to within 5 meters of these animals, but the birds have not been told that. So they keep coming and extremely curious. They just waddle up to you like that and then bend down, look at your shoe, look into your lens to see what is happening there. Extremely friendly. They're totally unafraid of human beings because of, where they are, where they live. Royal albatross, the grey-headed albatross, all these taken from the ship. Great skua. So while the ship is moving up and down, it's really heaving because the water is not really this way. You're also being thrown from side to side. And if you don't have a barrier on your bed, you'll roll off because these are bunk beds. And I had to, being more agile of the two guys, I had to sleep on top. And so if you don't have, like I said, something protecting you, you're likely to roll off. And you're climbing up the steps, say, from one floor to another. Suddenly the ship goes up like that, and then you find yourself climbing vertically up. Next moment, the ship is down, and you're running. It can be very, very dangerous. People apparently have died on tour. People have broken legs on tour. So not an easy trip at all. Compared to the Arctic, it really is tough. You have to rough it out. This is the southern fulmar. You saw the northern fulmar there. I showed you that some minutes ago. And the snowy sheathbill. Of course, those days, had to do exposure compensation and blah, 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 and all that stuff. Nowadays, with these mirrorless cameras, you just adjust your ISO button and you can actually see what you're shooting. Fantastic now. The southern elephant seal. This actually should be the second largest animal on Earth after the elephant. But it is considered a marine species and therefore doesn't, compete for that. The male can weigh up to 4 tons, 4,000 kilograms, and the record is something like 23 feet in length from here to there. They are massive, and the sexual dimorphism, as it's called, the difference in size between the male and female, is the most extreme in southern elephant seals. The female is really small. Mr. Handsome again. You can see all these marks on the body, all because of fighting. Males fighting to gain territory, to gain the females in that area, and then become, boss in that entire area. There they are fighting and biting each other. That's the female. All these are penguins. I even managed to get an extremely rare shot of southern elephant seal mating. This is fantastic, actually. There's a pup. The Antarctic fur seal. More than, I think, 90% of the fur seals come to South Georgia. So you have about some 2 million Antarctic fur seals. I'm talking about the entire South Georgia island. You don't see that many around because they are very, very nasty fellows. Each one is born with a nasty DNA in his system. He has something like about a 10-meter radius around him, which he protects. It's like walking on a landmine. So when you're going, let's say, to a penguin there, and there's this Antarctic fur seal here, you take a wide detour and then go there. But if it's a southern elephant seal, you can walk in between fairly closely. You won't be attacked. But these guys are known to attack and bite and take a huge chunk of flesh off your body. So you don't go near them at all. And this is something that nobody will ever see in his or her life again. These are reindeer in the southern hemisphere. Reindeer do not belong in the southern hemisphere. They belong in the northern hemisphere, and we saw reindeer in the Arctic. I didn't show you that image, but in the Arctic we do see them, but I thought this is more interesting because these were brought in by the whalers and the sealers, as they're called, those who hunted seals. Not sailors, sealers. Whalers and sealers brought these from the northern hemisphere to provide them food during the cold winter months when it was impossible to go out fishing and they could not set sail or do whaling. So they would keep these for their meat. And in 2013, when I was there, these were the last remaining reindeer. It was, scientists felt that because they keep walking around and there are no trees, all the birds have to lay eggs only on the ground. When they walk around, these reindeer might crush so many eggs and chicks. So they felt that they don't belong here, we're going to kill all of them. So all of them were killed by 2014. There are no reindeer there now in Antarctic, in South Georgia. You can see some crosses here of all the whalers and sealers who died there. These are king penguins, the second largest penguin on Earth after the emperor penguin. But to see the emperor penguin, you need to go from New Zealand or Australia. You may occasionally find some stragglers here, but I wasn't fortunate on both my trips. I didn't see any emperor penguins, but king penguins, lots of them. Again, lovely hilly, the rocky outcrop, and lends itself beautifully to black and white. Again, monochrome. This particular place has 600 to 700,000 king penguins. 6 to 7 lakh king penguins only in this one area. Wherever you see, there are penguins. And there are, of course, some southern elephant seals and Antarctic fur seals. But wherever you go, like I said. And if you want to photograph them, you need to lie down where there is guano, that is bird droppings over, God knows, centuries. But you lie down in that to be able to get down to their eye level and take photographs. And this is an amorous pair of king penguins, and they were posing, make so many different poses like lovers, young lovers do. If you remember, there was this iconic photograph from the Second World War, where a young couple is, I think, kissing on the railway station or something like that. Almost similar pose. I was wonderstruck. Difficult to make out whose neck is where, actually. This is the area I was telling you about, one of the areas. Just lots of penguins. Southern elephant seals. Those seals don't hunt penguins, they eat only fish. I'll show you a seal that actually hunts penguins. All these brown ones are chicks, and they molt and lose these feathers and become adult. And that was our ship, feeding its chick. And this is a macaroni penguin. These yellow strands look like macaroni. Macaroni penguin. This is a southern giant petrel. You can see the greenish tip of the beak. This is a southern giant petrel. Again, southern giant petrels. Northern giant petrel, reddish tip of the beak. All covered in blood, feeding on some carcass. Gentoo penguin. And this particular area was called Half Moon Bay. It is actually a dormant volcano. The water is fairly warm comparatively, compared to the rest of Antarctica, that is. And you get these sulfurous fumes rising from those waters. It is quite a smelly area, and the penguins don't come here to breed, obviously, because of that, but they do come here to rest on their way across to some other area. So this was an eerie sort of atmosphere where penguins came ashore, and there was all this mist and smoke arising from the volcano. Gentoo penguins, they eat ice. When they want water, they eat ice, because that's the only source of fresh water that they have. Seawater is salty. And this is one which number of people are intrigued by. How is there a splash before it hits the water? That's because another penguin had just jumped in there. I got that, but this creates far more drama than getting the first one jumping in. Gentoo penguins mating. This place, now I was waiting. These gentoo penguins were coming in off the sea. Their bellies are all laden with fish, and they're coming back to feed the chicks. So they come in off the sea. I'm standing up here. The sea is out there. They come there, and there's a mound. They have to climb that mound, and then they go down into a ditch where I can't see them. And then they climb up another mound. So I was waiting for them to come up the second mound so that I could photograph them. 3 or 4 or 10 would come at a time. I didn't want that. So I waited and waited deep in snow, waiting in one spot, feeling terribly cold. But then I got what I wanted. Just one gentoo penguin head coming out, looking as though it's floating in the clouds. Gentoo penguins. Gentoo penguin sort of flying towards us. This is an Adelie penguin, the smallest of the penguins, really short, smallest in the Antarctic. It was snowing that day. It's really cold. And here's a gentoo telling the Adelie, get off my patch. You know? Looks like a skating rink. Lone Adelie. And this is the image that you find out there in that corner. This guy, again, it's a chin strap penguin because it looks like it's got a chin strap. It came in and it was resting. They all would come out of the sea, walk up the slope and then rest for some time. And they would close their eyes. I waited and waited again in deep snow, waited for it to open its eyes. Only one eye would open, or the other eye would open then. So again, waited until both eyes opened at the same time and we got this. It looks like a stuffed toy, for example. I don't think anybody believes this is a real life creature. So like I said, they eat snow when they want water. His underarm stinks, I think. Needs to use, what is that new perfume that they, whatever it is. Fog. That's right, fog. India mein fog chalta hai. They just wait for some interesting compositions like this, like looking like rockets about to take off. And this place, even they found it difficult to get a foothold. They were sliding down. Again, got more than 100 pictures, I think, of all these guys. But I got this nice separation here. This is the wandering albatross, the bird with the widest or longest wingspan, 11 feet from wingtip to wingtip. And this is a place called Pryan Island in South Georgia. There's the chick. The chick takes 2 years to become an adult and fly away. And these albatrosses are flying throughout. They come to land only once in 4 or 5 years. They do not come on to land for fewer than 4 or 5 years at a time. And when they do come, when they have chicks, of course, they have to come back and feed them. But they come once a month or once in 2 months. So chick just stays there and exercising its pectoral muscles to be able to get the strength to be able to fly. There is this whaling museum called Grytviken, where you can go there and see the kind of instruments that people use to kill whales and seals. It's become a museum now. The ships that they used in those days, and of course, to do penance for all the wrongs they did to a church or any place of worship. Now taken over by penguins. Now this is a Weddell seal. This again is a seal that does not hunt penguins. It eats only fish. And Baba Ramdev will be very proud of this. Yoga pose. Now this seal actually hunts and eats penguins, the leopard seal. It's got, the shape is almost like a snake, the head. And it's got a lovely smile, very benign smile. Those are zodiacs in the backdrop. And that is the ship that we sailed in. Again, this also didn't have any icebreakers, no stabilizer. So like I said, you're rocking this way and that and forwards and backwards. And when you go to the toilet, you need to sit down. Men also need to sit down. Otherwise, you'll be spraying all over the place when you're swaying around like that. So you need to sit.
How many people in this ship?
We had about 90 photographers on this tour. 90. That's a big ship, very big ship. The blue-eyed shag or cormorant. And again, lovely landscapes here. Now, one of the guides on that ship was Tashi Tenzing, the grandson of the Tenzing Norgay. And he would take people up on mountainous treks. So those who wanted to go would be provided snowshoes, and they went on 3 treks like this. Of course, you can't do photography there, so I decided not to. These are not people, these are penguins, obviously. Lots of places where they had old airports during the Second World War and so on, right down here. Why they would want an airport in Antarctica in the Second World War, which was fought way up there, I have no idea, but there are airports there. All abandoned, obviously, now, but you can do this on the Antarctic, because Antarctica is a continent. It is what? It's the 5th largest continent, I think. Almost twice the size of Australia. So it's really large, very, very large. And you can actually build on that, and you can stay there, you can live there, if you want to, that is. Lots of research stations. You can't have that in the Arctic, because Arctic is just frozen ice. And again, with landscape like this, you can try and then do something different. You can walk away and get penguin tracks leading up to the same 2 rocks. Or you can get another perspective altogether. So lots of time where you can walk around. That's the thing with the Antarctic. All these are penguins. Obviously, you can't make a landing with water like that. And it lends itself to, again, black and white photography, minimalistic sort of just lines, mountain lines. These are huge, massive icebergs. One iceberg some years ago was the size of Belgium. It must have taken God knows how many, maybe 100 years or something to melt. I don't know how long it took to melt. But these are what are called, they have straight walls. I don't know what they're called. I forget the name. So because of straight walls, you can go very close to them. It's not the typical iceberg that sort of slopes down, where you can run aground and hit an iceberg and sink. These are called tabular. I got the name now. Tabular iceberg. So tabular iceberg, almost like a fortress. Look at this one, massive one again. That's our ship. Horizon is tilted, I'm sorry. This again, I converted only the top to black and white, and then, just something different. Natural archway. So the differences, come to the end of that, what are the differences between the Arctic and Antarctic? One, Antarctica, like I said, is a continent. It is a landmass surrounded by seas, whereas the Arctic is a frozen ice mass surrounded by land. Main difference is that. This is in winter, Antarctica, and the ice extends far out, and in summer it shrinks. Same thing with the Arctic, winter all over there, and in summer it reduces in size. So the cost is different, the travel time to get to the place is totally different, the time you stay away from work, and therefore the amount of money you're going to be losing. Like, I'm a surgeon, private practice, so I'm like a daily wages worker. If I don't go to work, if I don't do surgery, I don't get paid. Like an auto rickshaw driver. If I don't, service my customers, my patients, I don't get paid.
That is some sense of humor.
No, I really don't get paid. Who's going to pay me? Who's going to pay me if I don't do the surgery? Come on. So you have to factor in all these things, time away from work, and the hardship on the ship, like I said, being tossed around this way and that, and the size of the vessel. In Antarctica is a much larger ship. You can also go on these massive cruising ships, 500 people. But that's not an adventure. It's not photography oriented. It is for travel and tourism purposes. And landings, like I said, these are planned landings in the Antarctic. Tomorrow, on previous day, it's put up there. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, 7:30 breakfast, 8 o'clock get ready, 8:30 we are in the Zodiac, we go ashore, 12:30 the last Zodiac leaves the place, comes back to the ship. So everything is planned. You can go and do what you want on land, like as long as you stay away from these animals and that distance that has to be maintained. So here it is totally unplanned. Like I said, went to sleep, immediately woken up. And this happened several times. There was one day, I think second last day, 3 times we were woken up during that whole day. because of polar bear sightings. So anything can happen. And the food variety, obviously, it's the largest ship in the Antarctic, much more variety. We had an Indian cook, Gaurav Bawa. He was the chef, the chief guy, and he cooked up some fabulous dishes on the Antarctic tour. He lives in Delhi, apparently works only 6 months in a year, makes enough money, comes back to Delhi, does nothing in Delhi. Small little guy, I mean, you would think North Indian and would be massive, 6'2" or whatever. No, this is a small little guy, very shy, very reticent, afraid to come out and speak to people, but fabulous cook. And the number of wildlife. Obviously, like I said, Antarctic, in one spot you can see 1 million almost. Yeah.
He just wants to know if there are more pictures, otherwise he'll turn on.
No, almost over, through.
There are some more pictures?
No more pictures.
No pictures.
Yeah.
You can turn on the light.
You can turn on one general light, you can. So, and the number of wildlife, like I said, you see millions on the Antarctic tour, you see thousands only on the Arctic tour. And the variety of wildlife also is different. In the Antarctic, everything is battened down to the ground. You cannot have moving furniture. It can kill or maim you or cripple you. So everything is stuck to the floor. Nothing is moving around. And you can see all these white bags here. Those are what are called barf bags, because people get seasick and they might want to throw up. So quickly you can pull one strip off, throw up into it and then go and dispose of it later. You don't have that on the Arctic tour. It's nice, it's lovely, like I said, walk in the park. That right corner there was where the tea and coffee and hot chocolate, 24 hours. It also turned into a bar in the evenings, which is good. This is that same Half Moon Bay with the sulfurous fumes rising out, and that's the abandoned airport. Now I'll be showing just a few videos, so you can ask questions while the videos are going on. This was taken by one of my cabin mate, Jeff. He's an anesthetist from Australia. 6'3", massive guy, Australian, doesn't eat meat, he's a vegetarian, doesn't drink. Australian, he calls himself. Anyway, whatever it is. Anesthetist, and he and another guy took this video. Of course, I was there, but I didn't take this video. This was the first time the Gentoo penguins were arriving on this particular shore. So we were lucky to be there for this first landing of the Gentoos. Look at them jumping, slipping, falling back, again jumping. Oh, whack! On the chin. It's like the wildebeest migration, where they slip and fall into but there are crocodiles there. Of course, there are some leopard seals here. And in later summer, even orcas, killer whales, so they can obviously. Yeah, we're all there on land. Some are on land, some are still coming by Zodiac. No. Drones are not allowed in Antarctica. In Arctic, we had drones in some places. No polar bears, and then the guides will tell us where you can fly your drone. Those poles were put in by people, or guides who go there earlier, because these are all overhangs. There is this glacier that's hanging over, so it can suddenly collapse and become an iceberg, and you'll be part of that iceberg then. So you don't want to do that. So they put those poles saying you can't go beyond that point. It's dangerous, actually. So landing. Oops. Is that a video? I think it's a video. Yeah, it's a video. Just to tell you how, you're walking on snow, it is slippery, there's ice that is slippery, the rocks are slippery. Oh. So with the spades, they make staircases, sort of, steps. Okay, this is interesting. Now, again, like on the previous trip, I wanted a piece of iceberg to take back to the ship and then, use it in my whiskey. Because the air that is trapped inside the iceberg is thousands of years old. This time on the Arctic, they were saying 35,000-year-old air bubbles inside, air trapped 35,000 years ago. So when you add it to your whiskey and then these air bubbles come out, you're breathing air that was existing on Earth 35,000 years ago. So he got that and sharing a drink with another guy. And again, Antarctic, it can snow, suddenly rain, suddenly you have to be prepared for that. Okay, you must see this. Yeah, so you can expect that in the Antarctic. The captain will know that you're entering choppy seas, so they tell you to stay inside, not go out there. That is me in 2013, next to Shackleton's grave, and again 10 years later, Shackleton's grave. So Peter Adams, this guy I like a lot. He's a photographer based in California. He comes up with some fantastic sayings. So great photography is about depth of feeling, not depth of field. I think it's a really great. So cheers for Arctic and Antarctic. Thank you so much. You need to buy what is called a dry bag. A dry bag you can again get on Amazon. Depends on what is your camera gear size. You can put your entire camera gear, your whole thing, your bag, camera bag into the dry bag. Roll it up and seal it. So you can take that ashore into the Zodiac, even if there's water splashing, sea water, salt water, nothing happens to your gear. But extreme weather in cold, in snow and ice, except for wearing away of, say, a battery wears down rather rapidly. Apart from that, nothing happens. I think the cameras and they're sealed so well, nothing happens to them.
So most of these shots are handheld or monopod, tripod?
On the Antarctic tour, you can take tripods. That will be great, in fact. But now, like I said, with the mirrorless, I've done away with the tripod. There's no need. You can go up to, I think I've shown you this image. I've taken one image of a leopard at 102,800 ISO. 1,02,800 ISO, leopard image. It is, I'm not saying it's a great image, but what I'm saying is the cameras are capable of shooting in that sort of ISO. So you can go up to easily, 5,000, 8,000 ISO, no problems at all, handheld. You want to just set your shutter speed and aperture and just fiddle around with the ISO. You're fully manual. It's not auto. I don't use auto ISO. I twist the ISO around until I can see the image well. But I will fix the shutter speed and the aperture and shoot, handheld. Yes, sir. You can't see northern lights in Arctic because we went there in summer. If you go in winter, you'll definitely see. Of course, this year was a rare sighting. Even in England, they saw the northern lights in April, I think. But you can't see it because it's not dark. There's daylight throughout, so you can't see that. Yes, sir. Sorry? Yeah. No, real. Yeah, real. I don't do too much of post-processing. Very, very little, actually. The blue? You can change that, make it bluer if you want to, but I kept the color as it is. In fact, if you look at my Arctic images, they are bluer. the sky was bluer, the water was bluer, and so on. Antarctica it wasn't so because of the cloudy skies, mainly cloudy. You hardly see any blue skies. So if the sky is blue, the water will also reflect that and show a blue color. You have just gray skies. I don't use a light meter. I've never, and like I said, nowadays the cameras will take care of everything. If you can see the image in your viewfinder with the mirrorless cameras, and you can adjust the brightness, you can take it. That's it. One? Oh yeah, Antarctica will cost you about $20,000 only for the trip. Flying and all that and staying in some of these hotels for 1 night or 2 nights on the way back, on the way to, that is extra. And your drinks are extra. You can have tea, coffee, all that, hot chocolate, that is free. Some cookies are all free. But you want to take some drinks, you can buy it duty free. A nice thing about Longyearbyen, another nice small tidbit is Longyearbyen is duty free because it's not, doesn't belong to any country. So all the liquor is duty free. You can buy it really cheap. Fantastic beers and great range of whiskies and gins and rums and whatever, vodkas and so on. Great place. On the ship we had internet. If you go to the captain's cabin, there we'd all sit there, and as long as you don't send videos and receive videos, because that will clog up the system, you have Wi-Fi. You can make calls from there. Yeah. That's good enough. Thank you. Thank you.